breaking news. This is from the country of Tanzania. The president has been working tirelessly with the cabinet to ensure that they prioritize the livelihood and welfare of Tanzanians within the republic. This comes with an announcement that foreign nationals are not allowed to operate small-scale businesses in informal sectors. What does this mean? This means the likes of spaza shops, phone repair shops, beauty salons, forex and trading, and small-scale economic activities like hand-to-hand type of businesses, buying and selling. Well, the president says that this sector is saturated with immigrants and it's harming the economy. Is this Operation Dudula in Tanzania? Well, this is what happens when the government prioritizes its people. So this is not just the phenomenon of South Africa, but the whole Africa at large seems to be adopting to the trend. So what does this mean for immigrants? It means that you ought to have a critical skill or a special skill. If you are opening a business, then it shouldn't be a small scale like your spaza shop, your phone repair shop, and the like, as these are meant to uplift the livelihood of locals so as to improve and enable them to contribute to the GDP of the country's economy. So this is quite an interesting one because we have experienced this in South Africa when there was the eruption and rise of South Africans speaking against spaza shops. Obviously, the quality of standard, governance and how they were operating. It was harmful not only to the economy, but also to the health and safety of South Africans. Is this the catalyst that will lead to all the African countries adopting to this? Is this the beginning of the domino effect on all African economies? Well, these are questions that one ought to ask as an African within the continent to realize that opportunities not only need to be exploited, but also one ought to invest within their communities. So this is a wake-up call to all African immigrants in diaspora across the continent that the jig is up and things are changing. Times are moving and the tide is upon us. Well, before we play this news and clip, I would like you to just subscribe to this platform so that you can receive notifications every time we do an upload. And for those of you that have subscribed, we highly appreciate your support and we thank you for that. And while you're at it, kindly give this video a thumbs up. Now let us watch and hear the context of this ban that has caused an uproar in Tanzania. Let us watch.
Our starting point to this hour is in Tanzania. Authorities there have barred non-citizens from engaging in certain business activities that usually tend to be dominated by small and medium-sized enterprises. Officials say the move is aimed at protecting local entrepreneurs and trying to reshape the country's domestic economic policy. And there's many as 15 sectors, we'll just pick out a handful of them. Wholesale and retail trade, for example, excluding supermarkets and specialized outlets. Mobile money transfers, mobile phone and electronic device repairs, as well as small-scale mining as well. Those are all areas from which individuals effectively have been barred. Now, the move comes amid complaints that from some Tanzanians, that foreigners are coming in, they say, and pushing locals out of these sectors. Authorities say they will no longer be issuing or renewing business licenses for foreigners to operate in those parts of the Tanzanian economy. Other sectors that explicitly are essentially locked off include postal and parcel delivery services, local tour guiding, and the operation of radio and television stations. Daniel Kijo joins us from Dar es Salaam, the commercial capital of Tanzania. So, Daniel, this notice barring non-nationals from specific sectors of the economy is essentially in violation of the East African Community's Article 13 of the Common Market Protocol that effectively allows EAC nationals to set up businesses in other member states and requires member states not to treat other EAC nationals less favorably than their own citizens. What's Tanzania's response to that?
Well, Rama, Tanzania's government has justified the ban as a measure to protect, like you said, local entrepreneurs from unfair competition, particularly in sectors dominated by foreign nationals, including other East Africa citizens and, of course, Chinese traders as well. Main key points to the defense include first, economic protectionism. The Trade Minister, Selemani Jafo, framed the ban as a necessary measure to reserve informal and small-scale sectors for Tanzanians, arguing that foreigners have encroached on livelihood meant for locals. Second point is the sovereignty versus East Africa obligations, because while the government acknowledges that the Common Market Protocol principles like free movement of labor and goods, it contends that the directive aligns with its own domestic priorities, especially with elections approaching in October this year. And thirdly, it's about selective exemptions. The ban includes carve-outs for tourism-related businesses, like you said, salons attached to hotels, and wholesale operations serving local producers, suggesting an attempt to perhaps balance protectionism and regional trade needs. However, Tanzania has not directly addressed the Article 13 violation claim. Officials like Jafo emphasize encouraging foreign investment in large-scale ventures instead, implicitly sidestepping, of course, avoiding the protocol's non-discriminatory nature. And they've encouraged, they say, they are open for countries, investors to invest in big-scale issues like manufacturing, mining, etc.
So there are two potential outcomes, at least the way I see it here. Other EAC states could essentially retaliate in kind and kick out Tanzanians in comparable spaces in their economy, or this lawsuit ends up at the East African Court of Justice. In the event that both of those options take place, what will Tanzania's response be?
Well, Rama, we can look at this in two scenarios. Scenario one, let's talk about the retaliatory measures by other East African nations. If Kenya or any other East African members expel Tanzanians from, comparable sectors in their country, like mining and retail, Tanzania's response may include the following. One, maybe diplomatic engagement, call out for bilateral talks to de-escalate the tensions. This has happened before, there were MOUs signed in 2021 when Kenya and Tanzania had agreement on non-tariff barriers. Another option would be political posturing, perhaps, framing retaliation as hypocritical, giving Tanzania's reliance on regional trade, like Kenyan maize imports, and portraying that the ban is a temporary electoral strategy. Another way would be economic countermeasures, perhaps further restrictions on Kenyan goods or services, exacerbating the existing trade dispute. We've seen past clashes over the last couple of years over tour guides and even aviation rights that, Kenya and Tanzania got into. The second scenario is perhaps if there's a lawsuit at the East African Court of Justice. Tanzania's legal strategy would likely be to approach it like it did in the past cases, for instance, the Eco Pipeline dispute. One, have judicial jurisdiction challenges, arguing that the procedural technicalities like the filing of deadlines to delay or dismiss the case, find a way to find loopholes or lacunas in the law. We saw this in the 2023 ECOP ruling where the court avoided merits-based review. Another thing would be to talk about how treaty implementations. In law, sometimes they can claim that the ban falls under permissible public interest exceptions or domestic sovereignty clauses of the East Africa Treaty. Another way would be political leverage, leveraging its influence within the East Africa to negotiate non-judicial resolution, especially if perhaps a regional unity is at stake, Rama. So it's a tricky situation, and most people in the business community in East Africa and Tanzania are waiting to see how the move will be enforced, and this could determine each of the passing scenarios that I touched on.
Indeed, this is going to be an interesting one to keep a close eye on. Daniel Kijo joining us there live from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think of this development? What's your take on this? On this platform, we are committed to sharing news that is not only intriguing, entertaining, but rather educating. News that will shift your paradigm. That's why we ask of you to share your thoughts, because we believe by so doing we learn of one another, we become better, and by so doing many are sensitized and informed. Thank you for your continuous support. Like, subscribe, comments in the comment section. I thank you and I appreciate you. God bless.